Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
Dominicans to vote for a new government in a month, and a regional pollster says the Prime Minister is still popular. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Wednesday, November 6th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt has announced December 6th as Election Day in Dominica. He made the announcement at a public meeting of his Dominica Labour Party, DLP, on Tuesday night. Nomination day is in just under 2 weeks, Tuesday, November 19th. Both the incumbent DLP and the opposition United Workers' Party, UWP, are fielding a full slate of 21 candidates, and Skerritt called on voters to conduct a peaceful and responsible campaign.
I appeal to all within the sound of my voice. I appeal to all within the sound of my voice to let us strive for peace and maturity in the conduct of this general election. We are one people. We have a nation to build. We have an image to safeguard. Let us conduct this general elections campaign in an atmosphere of civility and responsibility. Let us respect each other's rights and property. Let us emerge from this exercise the envy of the region and the world with a clear mandate from the people and by the people for a new season of development for this beautiful country of ours.
In the last election in December 2014, the DLP won 15 of the 21 seats in Parliament, while the UWP won 6. Regional pollster Peter Wickham told CMC News that while the UWP gained some ground in that election, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt remains the preferred leader of the country.
You're seeing some consistencies with what existed before. So, for example, the two leaders are the same. The assessment of the two leaders is the same by the population. So the population is no more enamored with no less enamored with Prime Minister Skerritt than they were a few years ago. And similarly, Mr. Linton's perception in the public has not changed, which is essentially giving an advantage to Prime Minister Skerritt because people tend to be happier with him than they are with Lennox Linton. Having said that, though, there's been a lot of energy behind the UWP. The UWP felt in the last election that it did reasonably well because they improved their showing over the previous election, and certainly the last election would have been the first in 10 years that the UWP actually increased their share of the vote significantly, and I think that for them that was a major achievement. They seem to be wanting to take this momentum into the current election. But, you know, it's a reality where I think they understand that there are some negatives and some challenges that they're both facing, that they're facing going forward, because they're coming up against what is a political colossus, quite frankly, and we have to see how it goes.
Well, electoral reform is likely to be one of the most controversial issues heading into the polls. The opposition has been pressing for reform of the country's electoral system, including the introduction of voter ID cards and cleansing of the voters list. In August, government said it could not accept certain aspects of a report submitted by a joint special mission comprising officials from CARICOM, the Commonwealth Secretariat, and the OAS, who had been invited by the government to assist with some areas of electoral reform. Wickham says while the reform proposals are reasonable, the current laws will not affect the integrity of the upcoming poll.
In the Caribbean, we make too much of a fuss about voter ID. Personally, I've always thought that we can identify ourselves in small territories without necessarily having a voter ID. which is the case in places like the United Kingdom. So the idea of a voter ID is a nice thing to have. I don't think it is going to impact on the integrity of the electoral system, because in Dominica, with the population the size of it is, the vast majority of people can be positively identified by sight in many instances, and in instances where that's not the case, then there's a process where you can identify people. So the reforms that are being proposed, as I said, are reasonable, and I think in time they can be taken on board, but I don't know that it's anything that's going to mean the election result is going to be anything less than good.
The opposition People's Liberal Party, PLP, in the Bahamas says it supports freedom of expression amid controversy over planned gay pride events. Pride Bahamas will hold a series of events celebrating the LGBT community, scheduled to run from October 5th to 12th next year. They'll be staged under the theme, The Rebirth of Pride Bahamas, centering LGBTIQA people in the Bahamas' future. The Bahamas Christian Council has suggested that the events contravene the preamble of the Constitution, which speaks to the nation's foundation of Christian values. And it said it will mount a series of events opposing the Pride celebration that will focus on the traditional heterosexual family. But PLP leader Philip Davis says his party supports freedom of expression and will not pick sides in the matter.
Freedom of expression.
Well, I think the Christian Council, they have, just as everyone, there's what I call the freedom of expressions. And so as the Christian Council have freely expressed themselves in relation to the issue, others likewise could do so. So there's a right and our Constitution guaranteed on this country for freedom of expressions, freedom of us to form our own opinions and views. And we are able to do that, and we ought able to do that without fear of reprisals, victimizations, or any other of the penal consequences that should follow.
Philip Davis, leader of the Progressive Liberal Party in the Bahamas. And staying in the Bahamas, the government has deported more than 200 Haitians in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. The International Organization for Migration's Chief of Mission in Haiti, Giuseppe Lopretti, said a charter of 105 migrants was sent back earlier this week. The group included 73 males and 32 females, including a pregnant woman. Lopretti said they were going to areas where food insecurity is very high and economic activity is very minimal, and they would likely suffer. Dorian displaced thousands as it ripped through parts of Grand Bahama and Abaco from September 1st to 3rd. The Category 5 storm decimated two of the largest shanty towns on Abaco, called The Mud and Peas, where many undocumented Haitian migrants lived. Haiti's Minister of Foreign Affairs had appealed for a moratorium on repatriations to allow migrants to settle themselves in the aftermath of the monster storm and to replace documents. And the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights had also expressed concerns over the deportation of storm victims and called on the government to suspend mass immigration enforcement policies to allow for due process entitled under international law. But the government has maintained it will continue to enforce immigration laws in compliance with international treaties and in a humane manner. Meantime, CARICOM Chairman and St. Lucia's Prime Minister Alan Chastanet is calling on all stakeholders in Haiti to engage in meaningful dialogue to resolve the political crisis there. And he says CARICOM is willing to facilitate that dialogue. More than 40 people have been killed and scores wounded, while foreign embassies and other property have been attacked in ramped-up demonstrations across Haiti since mid-September as opposition parties try to force President Jovenel Moïse out of office. They've accused Moïse of mismanaging funds from the Petro-Caribe initiative, but he has denied all allegations. Chastanet says CARICOM is saddened and concerned by the deepening crisis. He says the group, quote, deplores the destruction of property and livelihoods, the deteriorating humanitarian situation, and the increasing death toll resulting from the breakdown of law and order, which has intensified over the past 7 weeks, end quote. And he therefore appealed to all parties involved to commence a meaningful discourse in good faith to restore order and normalcy to Haiti. Still to come, Rastafarians in Barbados will soon be allowed to use cannabis for religious purposes. We'll have the details of that story and more when we return.
When you think of what we went through with Hurricane Irma, you had to be able to recognize what are the things we need to do to cope with the aftermath. The psychological trauma, to me, is probably the most telling on a lot of people.
Preparedness is the key. So when people are prepared, when people have what their resources in terms of how they can cope with the disaster, they're better able to be able to return to their normal life. They're better able to make decisions that are informed for themselves and for their family, and then for their community. Be ready. Look, listen, and link.
Hi, I'm Brittany Dixon, and you're watching Finding Fit, the show I pair up one client with two trainers. Trainer number one.
Oh my gosh.
It's about fitness, comedy.
You know, I can do this all day, you know.
Drama.
In future, we cannot be late.
Inspirational stories, and so much more. You are gonna love it. You can catch Finding Fit prime time this fall on CaribVision.
Welcome back. Rastafarians in Barbados will soon be allowed to legally use marijuana for religious purposes. Government is preparing draft legislation to take to Parliament for debate to permit them to freely use the drug as part of their religious rituals. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Dale Marshall made the announcement in Parliament on Tuesday during debate on the Medical Cannabis Industry Bill 2019. Marshall says the legislation should be available within the next few weeks. He explained that the decision to introduce the legislation was made following a challenge from the Rastafarian community to find a way to allow Rastas to use marijuana for their sacramental beliefs, the same way measures are being put in place to allow its use for medicinal purposes.
In the same way that we go where the science takes us, we have to go where the law requires. Now, the details, we've begun some consultations with that faith. And yes, sir, we understand that there will be some people who will try to find a way of using that system. But you know, sir, that is no excuse for denying a person his fundamental human rights, sir.
Marshall says the decision was taken in the interest of religious tolerance. He said those individuals have human rights guaranteed by the Constitution and by all the human rights treaties that Barbados has ventured into to not only practice their faith, but manifest their faith in a way that suits them and their God.
Because this whole idea of religious intolerance and standing in judgment over who is right and who is wrong, sir, has prevailed across the modern world for 1 day, 1 year, 1 decade, 100 years, too many. Now, I have no doubt that there are people who will probably, I don't know, call down hellfire and damnation on this particular position. But I believe, sir, that it is solid in terms of constitutional theory. It is the right position in terms of constitutional rights. And, sir, at the end of it all, it is the right and decent thing to do.
Trinidad and Tobago's Police Commissioner Gary Griffith could launch a probe into sexual harassment allegations against former Sport and Youth Affairs Minister Darrell Smith, brought by his former personal assistant. But investigators would not be just looking into the actual allegations. As we hear in this TV6 News report, police would also probe whether there was an attempt to cover up the allegations, and if so, who was responsible.
Griffith will determine by Friday if the TTPS will be launching an investigation into the Darrell Smith saga. Since the announcement that the report, completed more than 1 year ago by a Prime Ministerial Committee, was deemed legally flawed, there have been calls from various quarters for certain questions in the 3-year-old sexual harassment allegation to be finally answered. One person insisting there are inconsistencies is Fixin' TNT's Kirk Waith, who wrote to the Commissioner asking whether there are grounds for a criminal investigation. Commissioner Griffith tells CV6 he has instructed an Assistant Commissioner of Police to consider the matter and determine by Friday whether the TTPS will be launching an investigation. Waith has charged the Commissioner to determine if there is evidence to support Carrie Ann Moreau's claims of sexual harassment by then Sport Minister Darrell Smith. Staying clear of the harassment allegation, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley last week told a post-cabinet media briefing the woman was fired without due process being followed. The public first got wind of the harassment allegation when her claim of wrongful dismissal landed at the industrial court as a trade dispute. She received $150,000 in damages and was made to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Inconsistencies, according to Mr. Waith, however, continue to pop up.
There was no grievance filed in the ministry process as to sexual harassment. There was no criminal complaint for assault that was raised. This matter found itself in a claim saying, I want money. I want $225,000. Let's get this clear. There was no, I am sexually harassed and I want to make a complaint in the process that the ministry has. There was also not an assault charge brought or a threatening charge brought or a text message which can be cyber harassment, etc. None of those things happened.
In Carrie Ann Moreau's sworn witness statement, she details dates, times, incidents, and alleged verbal comments made by Sport Minister Darrell Smith, which she considered harassment. She also claims to have informed the minister's personal assistant and the permanent secretary of the advances. And that's why Kirk Waith is asking whether there is grounds to investigate public officers, including the permanent secretary, for misbehavior for failing to act. He's also asking if there is a cover-up, if officers assisted in silencing the allegation, and if public funds were used as a quote-unquote payoff for someone else's misbehavior. As it relates to the legally flawed report, Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi says his office has no intention of destroying hard or soft copies of the report. AG Al-Rawi sent that message to UNC activist Devon Maharaj, who is seeking judicial review of government's decision to decline his FOIA request for the report. In a written response, Mr. Maharaj says he accepts the AG's word that the report won't be destroyed.
Ahead in Newsline Sport, West Indies kick off their ODI series against Afghanistan with a win. Stay with us.
Let your spirit take to flight. Let your heart run free and wild. Find your soul in Dominica, the nature isle.
On this edition of Caribbean Passport, we relive highlights of CariFesta 14's opening ceremony. Lots to do, lots to see as we explore Destination Barbados. And we continue our look into the Sustainable Tourism Conference held in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. All this and more right here on this station.
A superb knock from Roston Chase and an unbeaten half-century by opening batsman Shai Hope was enough to help roll over Afghanistan by 7 wickets in the first ODI at Lucknow, India on Wednesday. Pursuing a target of 194 set by the Afghans, Chase smashed 11 boundaries in a 115-ball 94 as the Windies raced to the target with 21 balls to spare. Hope was the other batsman on the hunt for runs as he added an unbeaten 77 off 133 balls. All the other top-order batsmen, namely Evan Lewis, Shimron Hetmeyer and Nicholas Puran, fell cheaply. Earlier, Ramat Shah and Ikram Ali Kale both hit enterprising half-centuries, but West Indies bowlers hit back to bowl Afghanistan out for a modest 194 and take the upper hand. Ramat struck a top score of 61 off 80 balls and Ikram 58 off 62 deliveries in an 11-run third-wicket stand, which frustrated West Indies. West Indies then pressed home their advantage, snaring the last 6 wickets for just 42 runs. Here's a look at the tail end of the West Indies runs chase.
That could just head down to the boundary. It's going to test the fielder.
There's an outside edge, you take him. He's hit plenty in the middle tonight on that occasion. A healthy outside edge, moral victory for the bowler. Again, past the outside edge. Again, a bit of fortune for Roston Chase. And he'll take it. And the ball is going to win again, is it? Or is that a good effort? Rashid Khan really putting in the effort right to the bitter end.
Ball's in hand now. Knee touches the rope now. And I think the ball has been released. And that's 4.
Another healthy edge. He's played a few of those in the last 15 minutes or so, Roston Chase. And there's the end result, another boundary.
Well, no big sixes, but looks like a boundary.
But he would have liked a few more wickets, and there's a chance. There's an edge. Yeah, a wry smile. Few cries of anguish from a few Afghanistan fielders. A little too late, really, even if he had taken that.
Drives down the ground. It's going away towards the boundary. It's a handsome stroke from him. Rashid Khan is after it. Can't get there. It's 4. Oh, yes, he's done it. He has done it. He's been dismissed in the nervous 90s now. 94, and Mujib has struck.
Roston Chase, a wonderful knock of 94 of 115 delivery. West Indies 188 for 3.
Nicholas Puran has come out to bat.
Yeah, if the score was 295, they will go for a boundaries. And that's end of the game. An excellent shot from Nicholas Puran through to cover area, and a brilliant win for West Indies.
In the women's game, India disposed of West Indies by 6 wickets in their ODI at North Sound in Antigua, winning the 3-match series 2-1. Asked to chase 194 set by the Caribbean side, who opted to bat first, India got to the target after a brilliant opening partnership between Jemimaya Rodriguez and Simrata Mandhana. Rodriguez's knock of 69 off 92 deliveries and Mandhana's patient top score of 74 were instrumental in India's series victory as they ended on 195 for 4 from 42 overs. For West Indies, off-spinner Hayley Matthews took 3 wickets, while leg spinner Afi Fletcher had figures of 1 for 33. Earlier, the West Indies women were wobbly at the top as they lost 2 quick wickets, those of Natasha McLean for 3 and Charmaine Campbell for 7, before captain Stephanie Taylor added a brilliant 79. Stacey Ann King chipped in with 36, while opening batsman Hayley Matthews added 26 from 39 deliveries. Cricket West Indies CWI has named a 14-member squad to take on India women in a 5-match T20 International Series to be played on November 9th and 10th at the Darren Sammy National Stadium in St. Lucia and on November 14th, 17th and 20th at the National Stadium in Guyana. In a release on a Wednesday, CWI said the team will be led by Stephanie Taylor and will see the return of Shakira Selman. Selman missed the ODI series as a precaution to ensure her full fitness and availability for the T20I series. The T20I series will be the last for the West Indies women before the ICC Women's T20 World Cup in Australia starting in February 2020. Cricket West Indies says these matches are the primary focus of India's tour of the West Indies as a vital part of the team's preparation for the World Cup. Switching sports now, Jamaica's governing body for amateur gymnastics is hoping to capitalize on the country's success at the last Olympics by scouting for a new head coach to push the momentum forward. TVJ's Daniel Blake reports.
At the Olympics when Tony and Williams competed in Rio in 2016. The country is expected to witness another Jamaican in action after Danusha Francis qualified for the 2020 Games in Tokyo, Japan. But with both gymnasts born overseas, President of the local association Nicole Grant Brown is hoping to employ a top-class coach to help build local talent for the future.
What we are hoping to do is to hire a competent coach who can come to Jamaica and live in Jamaica for at least 3 years to work alongside our coaches. If we have that in the next couple of years, we are good. We will be able to, take the athletes from the next step where they need to be.
And that coach would be able to use the first state-of-the-art facility which was opened in Kingston recently. But Francis thinks more will be needed around the country.
I think now we've got some better facilities. It's going to help to grow the sport even more in Jamaica. However, we could be looking at having facilities not only in Kingston but all around Jamaica, as obviously not everybody does live in Kingston. And I know certainly in lots of different countries there's lots of different facilities. So I think where you can't expect families to move just for training, it'll be really cool to see lots more facilities in the future all around the island.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back. Again, the major developments of this day, December 6th, set as Election Day in Dominica, and regional pollster Peter Wickham says Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt remains the preferred leader. And in sport, West Indies kick off their ODI series against Afghanistan with a 7-wicket win. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CannabisNews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.